Looking through some of my recent output when it comes to videos on the channel, I kind of noticed been doing a lot of Hollywood related stuff, and totally fine with that because it's something that I think is very important to point out whenever there's some incongruency with what, studios and the people that are up on high are trying to put out and make everybody else lap up. And well, frankly, what I've been seeing out there is just that same disconnect that I would be just as likely to see with sports, different professional leagues, certain governments that are out there, and they're doing something that the people en masse I wouldn't like, but they're trying to go ahead and point out certain demographics that would somehow eat all of that off and go ahead and make that relatable to the wider masses, or even some of the other bigger topics of 2023 with the Bud Light situation, where it was just a direct failure of the company to appreciate and understand its audience with the Dylan Mulvaney dust up. So yeah, pointing out the failings of Hollywood, even with some of its failing properties, is always going to be important because, well, in fact, just check this out for a second. This is a snippet of an AP article, something that I think I've referenced before, but it really does bear repeating. Now, the issue of AI was seemingly inescapable for Biden. What are you talking about here? At Camp David, one weekend, he relaxed by watching the Tom Cruise film Mission Impossible: A Dead Reckoning Part 1. The film's villain is a sentient and rogue AI known as the Entity that sinks a submarine and kills its crew in the movie's opening minutes. If he hadn't already been concerned about what could go wrong with AI before the movie, he saw plenty more to be worried about. That is not a unique thing to a senile, doddering old man. Of course, there are a lot of people, and not just of that Mission Impossible film, that think that Hollywood represents real life, and think that what they see on the silver screen is indicative of what's going on in society. A lot of people, specifically women, try to live out their Hollywood dreams at the expense of reality. What do I mean by that? Even though your average sized woman is now 170 pounds, but them out there thinking that you're going to have the likes of, and I place this blame squarely at the feet of Angelina Jolie, 110, 120 pounds if she's completely geared up. Woman beating the fuck out of a guy my size, 6'6", 220, thinking that's real life. No, it's not. And it's going to end up getting people killed. And some of the other pervasive messaging ends up ruining generations. Kind of like what they're doing with the quintessential action hero of the 90s. Just completely, totally removed of the superhero genre, you have Blade. Old Wesley Snipes Blade. The first and the second one are well regarded. I got a soft spot in my heart for the third one, but Blade was cool as a motherfucker, okay? Wesley Snipes, he's one of those actors that I always thought every single role that he's ever been in, he is knocked out of the park. But his quintessential role, maybe Willie Mays Hayes from Major League, but Blade, that's probably the one that most people know him from. And you know why people know him from films that came out in the mid to late 90s? Blade Trinity was a little bit later than that, but we're talking about the first two, the most successful ones, the ones that got Marvel off the map and helped them stay out of bankruptcy, pretty important to the overall brand. Well, it was going to be getting that Disney makeover, guys. It was supposed to be a part of, I think, Phase 5 or Phase 6, something like that. They have it all planned out, but obviously they're going to be going back to the drawing board very, very soon. But the script that they had, the revolving door of directors that they had right there, they couldn't figure out what they were doing, and look what they were trying to do. Troubled Blade script reportedly morphed into a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons. That's what you want from the Daywalker, the guy who's known for hunting vampires bloodily, gruesomely. You want him to sit around a table and discuss his feelings. That's the problem with modern Hollywood, and that's what I've been seeing. That's the reason that I tuned out of, and I used to be a big gamer. What's up, gamers? I have fucking like 1,200, 1,300 games on Steam. I have collector's editions of video games stemming back from PlayStation 2 when I could first purchase my own games, all the way up through the PlayStation 4 era. Kind of stopped very early in the life cycle, but that's the part where video games stopped being good, okay? Like, I started to get a sniff of that. I would probably peg it in on and around Uncharted 4, which had a really good story Until you got to the part that were just unnecessarily diverse and inclusive. Like, he had a really cool brother team-up story, but then he had this black bitch come in from the side and just beat the piss out of Nathan Drake. It's like, oh cool, you had Proto Abby about a decade before, and then you wonder what happened with Naughty Dog. But no, I've told my story that I pieced out of video games en masse with Mass Effect Andromeda, because there were no likable characters. So rewind into the past even further. Why did everybody start to take superhero films seriously again after Joel Schumacher completely and totally wrecked their mass appeal with the last two Batman films? Because of the characters that were in there. It's because Blade was cool. It wasn't just trying to appeal to black kids. It wasn't just trying to appeal to guys. It was a cool character in a cool plot, and it was a faithful adaptation. So it got everybody invested in the story. What the fuck is this gonna do? Troubled Blade film starring Mahershala Ali, who's apparently a pretty good actor. Like, I don't hear anybody saying anything bad. Like, the only reason anybody had hope for this Blade Disney MCU reboot is because of this guy's casting. And yeah, you know, for all of the shit that Disney gets, justifiably so, for their casting decisions, they somehow managed to get, you know, the black guy role appropriately cast. Funny thing about that. From Marvel Studios, reportedly morphed into a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons. Yeah, for a guy who's part vampire, makes a lot of sense that he would have similar life lessons. Not only did one script turn into this, but Mahershala Ali reportedly was ready to leave the project entirely due to the script issues. The fact that it probably kept on changing, that would probably have something to do with that. Recent report come from Variety's Tatiana Siegel, who we will go ahead and read her. We might as well just jump straight to this. This is that main article that we talked about earlier this week. I forget specifically, was that Tuesday or Wednesday we talked about this? But yeah, I wanted to save the Blade stuff to do its own dedicated video because, well, the Blade character is incredibly important, not just to Marvel, but to cinema in general. As the public criticisms mount, Feige is pulling the plug on scripts and projects that aren't working. Case in point, the Blade reboot. With Mahershala Ali signed on to the eponymous role of the vampire, things looked promising for a 2023 release date. But the project has gone through at least 5 writers, 2 directors, 1 shutdown 6 weeks before production. One person familiar with the script permutation says that the story at one point morphed into a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons. Blade was relegated to 4th lead. It's called Blade, but no, don't worry, he can just be a passenger in his own story. A bizarre idea considering that the studio had 2-time Oscar winner Ali on board. Wow, he's really good at his job, huh? Amid reports that Ali was ready to exit over script issues, Feige went back to the drawing board and hired Michael Green, the Oscar-nominated writer for Logan, to start anew. Ooh, that's good, that's promising, because Logan, what was supposed to be the final outing for Hugh Jackman's Wolverine character, is highly regarded. Unfortunately, I haven't watched it. I think I have it or something like that. I just, haven't gotten around to watching. But anyways, yeah, to start anew, speculation around town was that the studio is looking to make the film, now slated for 2025, on a budget of less than $100 million. Probably for the best, given the fact that there hasn't been a Marvel film outside of Guardians of the Galaxy 3 turn a profit, and, well, likely, probably won't be another one until 2025. A deviation from Marvel's big spending strategy, with Iger publicly acknowledging the downside of the Marvel TV glut, the diluted focus and attention. The keepers of the comic book empire are considering some dramatic moves. Sources say that they're in talks to bring back the original gang from the Avengers movie. I just talked about that yesterday. But according to one of the former scriptwriters, he denies that it was going to be, oh no, it's not going to be led by women. It's not going to be about Blade's daughter. Who said anything about Blade's daughter? Oh shit. Former Blade scriptwriter Michael Starbury, a different fellow, denied that his version and previous versions of the script he saw featured a narrative led by women. No, guys. It's not going to be led by women. They're just going to be central to the plot. Report from Variety's Tatiana Siegel. Yeah, we already talked about that and how we saw the source document. Starbury reacted to Siegel's claims on X, where he wrote, I worked for the draft of this before the strike. We never saw a version of Blade was 4th lead, or it was a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons, but I suppose a lot could have happened since I had anything to do with it. He added he was in 99% to the script I was a part of. Well, that's fantastic, bro. Worked on this before the strike. How far before the strike? And also knowing how many different writers, how many directors were a part of this at any given point in time. In all likelihood, you were working on a completely and totally different project than what it's currently at right now. In a subsequent post, Starberry wrote, "Whatever's going on with Blade, I'm hoping for the best. Some good folks are involved in that joint." I would imagine so, man. Like, nobody has anything bad to say about Ali, apparently, man. He's well regarded. In response to a user questioning, if Blade isn't about Blade, then why would we watch it? Starberry said, "He's almost in every scene that when I was involved. I don't know what happened, but I'll just say I seriously doubt he was ever the fourth lead in any draft. But we also know that all of the pre-production, that's not exactly of Disney's highest priority. They're more about working everything in at the 11th hour, baby. We are all about that post-production magic. What the fuck do you mean we're going through new writers and directors faster than clean underwear? What could possibly be going wrong?" But yeah, with all the uncertainty, and you can kind of see another wrench in this plan as well, that there's another rumor that Wesley Snipes is going to be reprising his role as Blade in Deadpool 3 when that eventually does come out, because it's already got Hugh Jackman in as Wolverine in kind of a buddy film with Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. It's another one of those attempts by Disney to just jangle the keys in order to get people excited, because everybody remembers the unabashed masculinity of Wolverine, of Blade. Come to our films. See, we don't hate guys. We don't hate guys in Marvel. Okay, we love guys. They pay our bills. Just make sure that all you bigots go and see the Marvels, because, well, fuck, somebody's got to. And that's a problem. That's a problem that I see with all of Hollywood right now, and frankly, is something that's keeping me out of the theaters and spending any time watching any of this tripe that we're being fed. You hear this with critics, with reviewers, from people that are just simply lending their voice to the conversation. "Oh, I love this film from way back in the day, from the 60s and 70s, okay? Oh, but it couldn't be made today." Oh, those jokes, like Blazing Saddles is normally brought up in some conversations. "Oh, that movie's funny as hell." The first half. The second half, it just kind of falls apart. But, the first half, "Oh, you couldn't make any of those jokes today." Why not? Why not? We're seeing what's getting put out there today, and how much of it is succeeding. What is the proportion of it succeeding? 10? 20% of the major productions are hitting their estimates, hitting their goals? Especially in the past couple of years, that's become tragically apparent. What would happen? What would happen if you had a return to form, if you had a studio, if you had a big name that was out there to just go, "Yeah, fuck it. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to do something unabashedly masculine." Hollywood's at this inflection point where they're starting to, age out of the superhero trends of the late 2000s, 2010s. Mostly because of, kind of all of this dog shit production problems, and the fact of the matter is you don't even have a coherent script by the time that you get ready to shoot the fucking thing. So they're looking for new avenues, more adaptations, like the Super Mario Brothers, like Barbie, okay, where you're just going to go ahead and tell, the backstory of dolls and action figures. That was one way that you could go. Or video game adaptations, video games, okay. That seems like a nice, easy transition, because you have all of the properties that people remember, and then you have the derivative sequels that come much farther along the line, and everybody looks at and goes, "What the fuck was with all of that intersectional injection there?" And it just kind of drove me out of the project. Exactly what happened with the comic book movies. "Oh, wow, we like all of those characters, but wow, they got relegated, and you just brought in a lame gay female. Wow. Fantastic stuff that you did right there. Really revolutionary things. But what brought everybody to the dance to begin with? What was always central to all of those trends in Hollywood, whether it be the sword and sandals, gladiator days of the 60s, into the westerns, into the unabashed action films that drove the 80s, and even with the slicker action films of the 90s and 2000s, all the way into the halcyon days of early Marvel under the Paramount regime? Oh, guess what? Masculine men were always central to that. Masculine men and feminine women. Behind me, I have two very good examples of that. Masculine men in The Godfather, and then, that's a Skyfall poster that you have right there, but my personal favorite of the Daniel Craig, and I know it's not exactly a revolutionary idea, or I'm breaking any ground with this one, but obviously Casino Royale. I just couldn't find an appropriate size poster when I was, framing some shit in the background. But Daniel Craig is James Bond, probably for the only time. I'd say Skyfall's pretty close, but James Bond was James Bond in Casino Royale, okay? People had problem with Blonde or blonde Bond when he got cast, but when they seen him on screen, it's like, pretty good choice, actually. He's really good in that role. He did, in fact, precipitously fall off. Kind of like the stuff that we're talking about. Nobody remembers Quantum of Solace, even if you've seen it, and they thought the Skyfall, pretty good return to form. And then Spectre came out, and I haven't heard anything good about that in retrospect. And then, of course, No Time to Die. Nobody has anything good to say about that at all. Started off with a promise, ended with a thud. But what also made Casino Royale legendary? Ava Green, not just for the very obvious reasons, but because she wasn't trying to be a girl boss. She wasn't trying to be a scene stealer. She was a feminine woman, not presented with malice. That's what people want to see. Regardless, whatever trend Hollywood ultimately latches onto, you need to reconcile with that reality. People want to see men at their apex. They want to see women at their apex. The more you try to subvert those gender roles, the more you try to change people's inherent biological programming, the more you're going to run into these unwinnable situations. But Hollywood, and especially the people that they employ right now, they're more than willing to continue to bash their head into the wall in order to drive their ideology. But at some point in time, the money's going to dry up, and a competitor's going to emerge, and they're going to go ahead and realize that very obvious fucking truth. And it can't happen soon enough, because every aspect of entertainment has been subverted by these fucking weirdos, and there is nothing good en masse by the big corporations that is coming out. You leave it to the indies, you leave it to the fringes. There's some good stuff that's still coming out there right now, but as it stands right now, you got to go back in time in order to be entertained. And it's a shame, because technology has never been better, these budgets have never been higher, but the executives have never been dumber. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.